In this episode, we're going to build a reusable health and damage system using a component. By the end of it, your weapons are going to be able to deal damage, you'll have destructible objects, and the player will actually have health. First, what is a component? So when you want to code a feature to an object, say a player or an enemy, in this case, we're talking about health and taking damage, you have to decide where you're going to put that. Now, you could put that in the parent script and have it for each individual object. This, of course, can get really messy, and you can't make changes very easily to every object that has health. The solution to that is to make a health component. A health component would be a single node that you could add to any object to give that object health. It's reusable, it's modular, it's pretty clean, and it makes testing a lot easier. To get started, we're going to make a health component script. We can actually create a new folder here in our scripts folder. We're going to call this components. And then within this, let's create our script. This will be called health component. And let's open that up. We'll start with the top of the script with our variables and our signals, including the class name. That's going to be a health component. It's going to extend just a normal node, not a 3D node or 2D node. And again, this is a reusable health component for any entity that you want to use it on. We'll add a few signals here that you could use to extend this to, changes or particle effects. We have health change that will emit whenever we have an increase or decrease in health. We'll have damage taken, and we'll have a died signal when you run out of health. We have a couple of export variables. That is one for max health. That's obviously the most health that this object could have. And then whether or not we should start at that max. And then a couple of variables that we need to keep track of, and that would be the current health and whether or not this thing is alive. We have three different things that the health component needs to manage right now. When we take damage, when we heal, and the other is when we run out of health. If you boil that down, it just means taking damage is subtraction, healing is addition, and dead means you hit 0. Let's take a look at the take damage function first. I'm going to paste what I have in here. So the take damage function is going to run whenever we, get shot or we shoot something. We're going to run this elsewhere, so that logic will be taken care of somewhere else. And when we call it, we need to have an amount for how much damage we want to take, and then we're going to pass along whatever is calling this function. It could be the player, it could be an enemy, it could be an environmental thing, whatever it is. It's useful to keep track of the source if you want to do some kind of aggro thing or call attention to what shot you, right? So first we'll check if not is alive. If it's already dead, then don't worry about it. Doesn't need to take damage. Then we need to calculate the actual damage amount. So this is just a clamp at the lower end to make sure that we're not going to take negative damage, because that would actually be healing. And then we'll set the current health to equal the max of 0 and our current health minus our actual damage. This again is just making sure our current health doesn't go below 0. I've said this before, but like a min and max is just a one-way clamp. After we've set our current health, we can emit our damage taken, about how much damage we've done. Let's say you wanted to have a damage number pop up. You could use that signal to emit that information and then have something pick it up and respond appropriately. Then we're going to do a health changed emission. We're not using this yet, but I've used it to adjust for what the player's health is. You could use it for that. You can use it for other things. We'll include a print in here just to give us a little bit of information. And if the current health after we adjust it is equal to or below 0, then we're going to run our death function. After that, we have our heal function. So this is our addition function. I just need an amount we'll pass along. This could be when you run into a pickup. The pickup has the amount, so you pass this along. So check if we're alive. If not, don't worry about it. And just like we did with the damage, we're going to get the actual heal amount. So we don't heal a negative amount, because that would actually be damage. So just the max between 0 and the amount that we want to heal. And then the current health is then the min of max health and current health plus actual heal. This just makes sure that we're not going to go above our max health. And then we emit our health changed after we do that. And for our death function, again, check if we are already dead. And if we are, don't worry about it. And if we're alive, then we need to set that to false. We'll reset the current health to 0 in case it is not already 0. And then we can emit our died signal. Now, notice we're not doing anything else beyond that. We can handle what the death should be because it may not always be the same. And you may want to do other effects with it. So we can connect this to whatever the parent script is, and we can individualize whatever that death may be. Now you could just, if you want to free everything, you can put that here, call it a day. And that's pretty much it. So let's test this by creating a box that we can shoot and damage. Let's create a new scene. Now I've got way too much stuff open, so let's close some of this from our last episode here, all of our pickups. Close all those. Let's make a new scene and let's make a very exciting destructible box. That would be a static body. Let's do static body and we'll call this destruct box. And let's save that, put it in scenes and put it into props. Call it destructible box. And let's add a mesh. We're gonna add a collision. So we've got our box and now we can just add our health components. Let's set the health to, 50. And we're gonna start at max and that's it. That's all we need to do. Now we want to get rid of the box when we destroy it. So let's do that too. We'll create a script and put that in our props folder, save that. So you can either do this in code or you can do it manually since we've added our health component. You can go to your signals and take our died signal, connect it to our destructible box, connect to that, and let's just print name destroyed, and then we will queue free. So now we've connected this, and when we handle our death, we're going to emit our died signal, and that is connected to our main script up here for our object. Now, we don't have a way to actually cause the damage. So let's add that to our weapon controller. So when we shoot, we actually damage things. That would be kind of nice for an FPS. Let's go to our weapon controller and we're going to go to our perform hit scan first. So in our hit scan, we're running through, we're checking what we're shooting at. We have all of our logic that we've done in a previous episode. Even if you're working from your own weapon system, this is going to work the same way. Wherever you're doing your hit scan or your projectile setup, we're going to add this function called apply damage to target. What this will do, if we go back to our perform hit scan, after we get a result that we've hit something that we can hit, we're going to spawn our impact marker, which we're already doing. We're going to run this function and we're going to pass along the result of whatever we've hit. So when we do that, we're going to have our target, and within that target, we're going to see if we have a health component. If we don't, then nothing is going to happen. If we do, then we can run our logic. So we'll set health component to equal the target, and then we're going to use this function right here, get node or null. It's not the quote unquote cleanest way we could do this, and there certainly can be issues by using a string to do this, because it means you have to have this name exactly, or it's just not going to find it. It also means that you have to have the health component in the first layer of your scene, so it finds it right there. You don't have to do it this way. You could look for the class and sort through all the children within the scene if you wanted to do it that way. This is really just for demonstration purposes, and also, like, I know personally I'm the only one working on my stuff, and I know what I need to do to make this work. So that's the method that I've gone with. And from a design standpoint, what that means is as long as you have added this health component and it's named this to your object, then it's going to find it. And this function means if we don't find it, then we're not going to get an error. It's just going to pass along null and we'll be fine. So if we have that health component, and just for safety purposes, if that health component has the method take damage, which if it's the health component, it will, then we're going to run that function. We're just checking that it's there before we call it, so we don't get an error that way. Anyway, that's the idea behind this structure. So if those two things are true, we're going to run that take damage function in the health component of the target, and we'll pass along the parent for the source for now. Now, we can also do the same thing for our projectile. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll go back to our projectile script. And if you're working from your own projectile script, you can do the same thing. We go to the onBodyEntered function. This is where we're spawning our impact marker. And before we free our projectile after we hit something, we're just going to add that same logic that we applied. We're going to look for that health component. And if we have that and the health component has take damage, let's run it. Now we can place our box into our scene. Let's find our destructible box, pop that there. In fact, let's add a couple right there. So let's test this, but I'm going to warn you, we're actually going to get an error. And I'm going to show you why in a second. So we'll shoot our box with our pistol, and there's our error. So if you notice, when we did our take damage, we passed along get parent. Now I wanted to make a distinction about this because some people might just use get parent. Here's the issue with that. In our health component for our source, we're looking for a node 3D. And if we go to our player controller and our weapon controller, which is actually calling this function, the parent is a node. So you have to make sure about types and what you're passing along. In this case, what we want to do is get the owner. Now the owner is the top tier that has all of these nodes here. So if we get the owner of our weapon controller and we save that and close, test that again, that destroys our box. We still have one thing that we haven't accounted for, and that is the health of our box is not at its max. So if you look at our print down there, it has the player controller. It says destructible box took 25 damage. Health is 0 of 50. Well, we set it to 50, or we thought we did, and it should just take 25 damage. But we haven't actually set it to 50. So let's go back to our health component. Everything in here is right, except we're not making use of our start at max. And the fix for that is pretty simple. So we add our function for whenever we're ready. We just set the current health equal to our max health, but only if we start at max. Now, if you decide that you don't want to start this at max, you can come up with some other way to set that initial health. You could just have another export and do an else set to initial health. That would totally work. Otherwise, now we're going to make sure that we set it to our max health when we're ready. Let's test this again. We'll go back to our box. We'll shoot it. We took damage. Notice we took 25 damage and our health is now 25 of 50. We shoot it one more time. The box is gone. Now, if I take away that health component, I can just delete it, save it, run that again. We shoot the box. Nothing happens. We're not getting any errors. Nothing weird is happening. We can add the component back on. Add our health component, 100 damage, start at max. Make sure you connect your signal here. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen when you die. And we'll connect that. Let's just pick it, say OK, connect. And now we'll have health again for our boxes. Shoot it 4 times and it's gone. We can add this to any object that can obviously receive collision in our scene, in our game, and it's going to give it health. And we can damage it. Pretty cool. Let's test our projectile too. I don't think, I maybe had the pistol be a projectile. Let's just switch that over because it's super easy to do. Pistol, and we just turn off is hitscan, and that should turn into a projectile. Let's check. There it is. All right, we'll shoot, took damage, it's gone. Now we can do the same thing by adding a health component to our player. So, and the magic of the component is that it's just as easy to add it as it is to the box. So we'll just go to our player controller and we'll add our health component. Make sure you add it again to the first layer here. We have it under that first layer. Keep the max health at 100. Start at max. And we don't have anything that can actually shoot us. So let's go to our player controller. So we're just going to add an unhandled input just for a test. Don't have to keep it here. And we need an action. So let's go to our input map. And it's just, I don't know, sometimes I just like to add a test input. Call it test 1. We'll add it and just make it F1. We'll get the component and we'll take damage. And let's also player took damage. So we should be able to press it 10 times. So it turns out I was already using F1. So let's change that. We don't need to do 2 things at once. Let's just do it as T. And let's try it again. Press T, took damage, took damage, took damage, all the way down, and we died. So that's the basis of our health and damage system. We'll take a look at adding health pickups in a short episode after this one. You should have enough, though, based on the pickup episode that we did and this episode to be able to run that. Basically, I can even run through that real quick without actually doing it. You know, you make another pickup that's a health pickup, and like we do with our weapon pickup, you run our apply pickup, and in this case, you would just, you know, check for the health component in the player and then heal, run the heal function. I'll run through that in a small episode just to make sure everybody's on the same page. As always, you can get the source files for this episode, previous episodes, and all future episodes on my Patreon. Thanks to everyone for supporting what we're doing here. It's great to see the support on the Patreon and hearing feedback about what we've been doing and what we should be doing in the future. I'm really excited. We're going to get the health pickup out of the way. I think it's important. But after that, we're doing enemies, and we're going to have a full game loop. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for watching. And as always, keep creating.